John F. Kennedy wrote the book in 1960. Barry Goldwater read it in 1964. Richard Nixon has added some chapters for 1968. The book is entitled, How to Control the Convention Floor and Win the Nomination. What Kennedy invented, Goldwater improved on, and Nixon hopes to have perfected, is a highly polished system of communications and organization, linking the candidate to the convention. The candidate himself may be miles away, but he is now closer to the action than ever before. He's in a position to bolster a shaky delegation or to sway one of his opponents. It's no wonder that candidates here are so sensitive about their communications command posts. The secrecy surrounding them is thicker than cigar smoke.
These innocent-looking trailers outside Convention Hall are the electronic strongholds for Reagan, Rockefeller, and Nixon. The Nixon trailer in particular arouses curiosity. Although clearly unidentified, it's about as inconspicuous as Fort Knox. Why all this mystery and security, and what does it all have to do with nominating a candidate? While work was still in progress, we went straight to the man who knows.
Get your seating chart and see if you can't locate your own delegation so that you'll know where it is.
This is Richard Kleindienst, the man who helped mastermind Goldwater's first ballot victory in '64 and now hopes to do the same for Nixon. Kleindienst heads a corps of Nixon agents who have infiltrated every delegation in search of votes.
We have the Nixon Field Organization, the men who have been, in many instances, working over a year to secure Mr. Nixon's nomination, come out for their first examination of the convention floor facilities. We will also have them understand the use and operation of our telephone system on the floor, and also be able to identify where the Nixon delegate in each delegation will be sitting. It's all designed to just make our communications among ourselves a little bit better. These people are first the Nixon for President chairman in each of the 50 states. In addition to that, they are the regional directors and the regional chairman. This is the South Dakota delegation right here. Congressman Rogers Morton is our floor leader. He's a delegate from Maryland, but by arrangement, he will be sitting in the South Dakota delegation at a telephone, and the reason why we're here, South Dakota's up front, so he can be easily recognized by the person who's in charge of the convention at the rostrum or the podium. Each candidate is permitted 10 telephones on the floor, and we have 10. We wanted 25, and they limited the number to 10.
It's almost impossible for outsiders to get inside the communications trailers. All of the candidates are fearful of sabotage and bugging. Kleindienst, however, reluctantly agreed to give us a quick tour of the Nixon command post. With all the secrecy and security, you might have expected to find James Bond inside, but not even Maxwell Smart showed up.
This trailer right here is just a lounge trailer. We're going to be, some of us out here hours and hours and hours, so you can just go in and take a picture, but it's obvious what it is. It's just a trailer where people can sit down and get away from the hubbub. Do you want to come in the... It'll be a place that we can have any meetings in a quiet, secluded spot that we feel that we might have. And there's nothing in this trailer except just a house trailer that we moved next to the convention hall. In the back room here, you can see that there are a couple of TV sets and some telephones that connect with our headquarters at the Hilton Plaza Hotel. Our communications trailer. This is where we have our telephone system that is hooked up to the floor of the convention. As I told you earlier, there are 9 floor telephones, and in here is the other end of the telephone line where the regional director or chairman for Mr. Nixon's campaign organization will be in communication with the floor. Now, gentlemen, you can see, it's quite obvious to you that this is a communications center. There are 9 telephones here connecting to the 9 telephones on the floor of the convention. And then where the installers are working are 2 master control panels that will connect with all the telephones. You'll also see that there are television sets so that the regional director who will be in each booth can also see and observe what's going on the floor of the convention. And this telephone system likewise is hooked up to our telephone switchboard at the Hilton Plaza Hotel, so that our staff there can be in communication with anybody at the convention and vice versa. And there will be about 12 people in here, the 9 regional chairmen and Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Nixon's general campaign chairman, myself and Mr. Ellsworth, Mr. Sears, and Mr. McWhorter.
The good news and the bad news gathered by these men goes right to the top, Nixon's closely guarded penthouse 3 miles away.
Mr. Nixon will be in a room in the hotel. In that room, there is a telephone. That telephone is connected to our switchboard so that Mr. Nixon can be communicated with. Alexander Graham Bell did a great thing. He invented the telephone, and we use them. That's all we use, is just telephone.
And that's the story of Nixon's communication system. The gates are now closed to the press, the public, and the would-be wire cutters.
All this emphasis on instant communications and super secrecy may appear to be a bit overdone, but there are good reasons for it. A candidate simply cannot afford to be surprised on the convention floor, and there have been many surprises in the past. One of the earliest for the Republicans occurred in their Chicago convention in 1860. At that time, communications were so primitive that the crowd outside the convention hall got its news from a man standing on the roof shouting at them. William Seward was the leading contender for the nomination. Seward got his news at the home of a friend hundreds of miles away. Seward was overjoyed by the results of the first ballot. When he got the telegram with the results of the second, he confidently predicted victory to a cheering crowd. But when the messenger arrived with a wire for the third time, Seward's face turned to ashes. It read, "Lincoln nominated." Unknown to Seward, Lincoln's floor managers had swayed many key delegations with promises of high government positions. Seward found out too late to do anything about it, although it all took place within the space of 2 hours. Who knows? Had Seward's communications been better, the Republicans might be known today as the Party of Seward.
In so low, our alliances so weakened, and our image so impaired. Never has an administration so disregarded the limits of our resources or our patience or our willingness, indeed our inability to police and sustain a bellicose and insatiable world. We've been open-hearted, we've been open-handed, we've done all this, and now it's time to reassess our generosity and the limit of our resources. Never have we known a time in which foreign financial leaders have been so fearful of America's resolution to overcome the fiscal crisis. And never before has an administration so justified the concern of the foreign bankers. Not for a century. Listen, not for a century has interest, the price of money, been higher. Never the drive to pour out public money so great. Never has the nation been so mired in debt. Never has the budget been so bloated or the deficit so huge. Did you see it in the paper the other day? On the 30th of June of this year, we failed to pay our bills out of revenue by only $25 billion. And that is your deficit and your debt. Once upon a time, people said the sky was the limit. Now we've been rocketed into fiscal outer space. Never have work stoppages by public servants been with us so much, and solutions so uncertain, and prospects for reasoned conduct so unsure. Never have our farmers been so productive, and yet, except in a depression, never have their profits and returns been so low. Never have the consumers in the country had such an abundance of food and goods, but at prices they flinch to pay. It is said that the best things in life are free. Well, never has an administration labored so diligently or so successfully to prove that nothing is free anymore. Never have our cities writhed in such jeopardy and fear. The President's own commission said that the domestic crisis in our land is the most serious since the Civil War. That's a great society, is it not? Never have promises been so lavish and the performance so dismal, respecting our millions of poor, never their resentment so keen and their protests so violent, and never relations among the races so gravely impaired. Never has obedience to law been so disdained, and never law enforcement so hobbled by unwarranted regulations, strained court decisions, and official solicitude for crime. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's tell it like it was. Must this free people forever indulge lawlessness and violence? Must law-abiding citizens wear a bulletproof vest when you want to take an evening stroll? Must we avoid our great cities by night as if they were guerrilla-infested hamlets out in Vietnam? Worse still, never has the sanctity of life been so scorned. 2 young Marine officers go into a restaurant in Washington and are killed in cold blood. Think of it. A United States senator is assassinated while campaigning. A Christian crusader is martyred for leading a march. Policemen in our nation's capital are shot down, and the killing is and was condoned, God save the mark, by a group in Washington who ought to know better. Desperados convert the streets have converted the streets of Cleveland, Ohio into bullet-swept lanes like a frontier town. Get guns! That's the battle cry. Homicides are little more today than a statistic. The clamor rises for gun control. But how little is said about the trigger, the finger that pulls the trigger. Little businesses serving city dwellers face ruin because they can get no insurance protection. Oh, yes, I know. There is relief, pooling private and public funds, but still there is no end to the tyranny of the looter, the blackmailer, the robber, and the arsonist. And that's where the cause lies. Yes, my friends, let's tell it like it was. This lawlessness, this official restraint in meeting lawlessness, this indulged defiance of authority, they're the straight road and the short road to anarchy and chaos in this blessed republic. Never has the sound of the trumpet been so uncertain. Never has our leadership been so hesitant in rallying our people to salvage America's inheritance. How tragic that America the beautiful has been allowed to become shamed, unhappy, and embittered. You know, patriotism in some quarters has gotten to be a dirty word. Sacrifice, except the thousands of youngsters 12,000 miles from here, who at this very moment risk death in a national cause, seems to be outmoded. This ballyhooed great society, which was the fancy brainchild of a British socialist 60 years ago, is not a New Deal, nor a fair deal. It's rather a straight-out misdeal. And you humor it longer, and you will destroy what the founding fathers have wrought. Clearly, my friends, the hour is late, and the problems are many. This is America's hour of need. And that need, so urgent and so undeniable, is to depose a fumbling Democrat Party. That's what it takes. That's the party that's been long on promise and so short on performance. I think an outraged, heartbroken America joins us in this injunction to the Great Society, a sentiment that was voiced by Oliver Cromwell long ago. In fact, 300 years ago, to the Parliament that was sitting. He said, "You have sat here too long. No good has been come by it. Depart, I say, and let us have done with you. In the name of God, go." That's what Cromwell said to the Parliament. But I know there's still a few who rather prefer the alluring political promise, even with its failure, instead of progress that is dependable and orderly and assured. Let such dreamers heed Lincoln's warning of a century ago. You know what Abraham Lincoln said to the young men of Springfield? He said, "If destruction shall be our lot, we must ourselves be the author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. And that still goes. We Republicans believe in Lincoln. We hold with him that the legitimate needs of the people can be met without forfeiting freedom. We hold there can be progress without wanton spending and ruinous inflation and fiscal collapse. We know there can be care for the needy, and without the erosion of dignity, and without federal domination, and without paternalism and the wasting of human endeavor. We of the Republican Party are, yes, and able and determined to meet the people's needs. We really want to provide that progress. We Republicans are literally champing at the bit to prove to every citizen, just as we've proved before, that Republicans don't merely promise, they produce, and we really care. We call upon Americans tonight, we call upon Americans, regardless of party and regardless of section, to join with us in retrieving this nation's birthright of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I admonish you, when you sing "God Bless America," in your mind let there be another thought: God make America worthy of his blessing. And let us pray that through God's grace we can become again a confident, peaceful land where the larks can be heard above the guns. And we truly become one nation under God. I repeat that we truly become one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. You say it with me, and let it ring the welkin. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Permit me to conclude. It's not merely a political victory that concerns us here, but rather the future of the Republic. Rolling down the years, we can still hear Ben Franklin's challenge. Don't you hear it? A republic, if you can keep it. Inspired with high purpose, resolved that this land of liberty, with its limitless promise for the generations after us, shall not perish from the earth, we now present for your favor a statement of principles and programs, the 1968 platform of our party. And may I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, there'll be no reading of this platform line by line. I know how tedious that is. First of all, you're going to hear from a distinguished governor who will take about 5 minutes to tell you about the preamble and the purposes, and he in turn will introduce the 7 chairmen of the subcommittees who constituted the temporary platform committee appointed by our distinguished national chairman under the authority conferred on him by the 1964 convention. And so tonight, you're going to hear the platform. It'll be in a little package. I adjure you to be quiet and to listen, because this is going to be your chance. And so it's my pleasure and it's my privilege to introduce to you the distinguished chairman of the Governor's Conference, the Governor of Rhode Island, my friend John Chafee, who will now address you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman and delegates, this platform is the result of several months of diligent work, culminating in a full week's revision by 102 delegates from all over the country. We have had excellent and often colorful leadership in Senator Dirksen, our chairman. He has been fair. All have had a chance to have their say. We believe it is a good platform, setting forth clear directions not only for our party, but for the nation. And so we start this presentation with the preamble. With this statement of preamble, purposes and pledges, we begin a historic document for our nation and our party, the 1968 Republican platform. Twice before, our party gave the people of America leadership at a time of crisis. Leadership which won us peace in place of war, unity in place of discord, compassion in place of bitterness. A century ago, Abraham Lincoln gave that leadership, and from it came one nation dedicated to the proposition of liberty and justice for all. 15 years ago, Dwight David Eisenhower gave that leadership. It brought the end of a war, 8 years of peace, enhanced respect in the world, orderly progress at home, and trust of our people in themselves and in our country. Today we are in turmoil. Tens of thousands of young men have lost their lives or been wounded in Vietnam. Many young people are losing faith in our society. Our inner cities have become centers of despair. Millions of America are caught in the web of poverty, lack of education, lack of employment or underemployment, lack of good housing opportunities. Inflation has eroded confidence in the dollar at home and abroad. It has severely cut into the income of all families, yours and mine, the worker, the farmer, the retired, those living on fixed incomes or pensions. Today's Americans are uncertain about the future and frustrated about the past. America urgently needs new leadership. Leadership that is courageous and understanding. Leadership that will recapture control of events instead of having events control us, thus restoring confidence in ourselves and in our future. Leadership which will develop imaginative, new approaches, assuring full opportunity to all our citizens. Leadership which will face and resolve the basic problems of our country. This convention, our convention in 1968, can spark a Republican resurgence under men and women willing to face realities in the world in which we live. Now, what have we got to do? First, we must urgently dedicate our efforts towards restoration of peace, both at home and abroad. We must bring about a national commitment to rebuild our urban and slum areas. We must attack the root causes of poverty and eradicate racism, hatred, and violence which so plagues us. We must bring about quality education for all. We must assure every individual an opportunity for satisfying and rewarding employment. We must enable family farm enterprises to participate fully in the nation's prosperity. We must give all citizens the opportunity to influence and shape the events of our time. We must give increasing attention to the views of the young and recognize their key role not just for the future, but for the present as well. We must mobilize the resources, talents, and energy of the private sectors of our nation and utilize the unique strengths, originality, and initiative that resides in local and state governments. We must reestablish fiscal responsibility and put an end to these spiraling increases in the cost of living. We must reaffirm our commitment to Lincoln's challenge 106 years ago when he wrote to Congress, "The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country." In this, our stormy present, let us rededicate ourselves to Lincoln's thesis. Let the people know our commitment to provide the dynamic leadership which they rightfully expect of this party. The party not of empty promises, but the party of performance. The party not of wastefulness, but of responsibility. The party not of war, but the party whose administrations have been characterized by peace. This is the Republican Party to which we welcome everybody to come to. Republicans, independents, Democrats, come and join us in this great effort. Thank you. Now, to tell us about the first part of the platform is a young man who entered Congress 9 years ago after graduating from Williams College and Yale Law School. He served in the Department of Justice. When he came to Congress, he was looked upon as a comer, a man with a great future. and he has fully justified the high expectations and promise he showed. He is the youngest member of the joint House-Senate Republican leadership. From the 38th Congressional District in New York, Representative Charlie Goodell. The crisis of our cities is a shameful blot on America. We see the flickering lightning and hear the rumbling thunder of urban unrest, racial disharmony. We see and flash their fears. We hear the sound of their alarms. We can face this problem. We can unite our country. But first of all, we must put an end to government by crisis. We must put an end to ill-conceived crash programs that treat symptoms and ignore causes. We as a party and as a country must anticipate new achievements. We must welcome the challenge of change in a restless world. We seek a just society from which respect for law and order will naturally flow. Our challenge is to create new cities across this land for 100 million new Americans who will join us by the turn of the century. Our challenge is to transform the blighted areas of our cities into centers of progress and opportunity, culture, and talent. We pledge vigorous federal support to imaginative and sensible state programs using a new mix of public and private funds, such as in urban development corporations. We must open our urban arteries with new transit systems. It's time we completely overhauled the cumbersome and self-defeating welfare system that demeans both giver and receiver. We must motivate the less fortunate in our midst. We must motivate them to be a part of the genius of our system of private enterprise. We seek quality education that is relevant to the needs of our people. We seek a quality society that is relative to the needs of our people. And we cannot have a quality society without quality in government. We urge the creation of community development corporations that will give the people of the poor and impoverished areas of our country an opportunity to be a part of the action, to control their own destinies, and to be a real involved part of the free enterprise system. We urge also the creation of a domestic development bank that will make available to the poor both loans and an ownership in the equity of their communities. We must give all our people a piece of the action in this country. We must reinforce and refocus
initiatives, private initiatives, to produce a new burst of energy that will solve the problems of our cities. We must involve those who are to be served by government programs with some power over their own destinies. We in this platform have recommended many of the realistic proposals that were put forth by the Commission on Civil Disorders appointed by the President. America can stem the flow of rural poverty to urban ghettos. We offer a program of rural revitalization based upon tax incentives and realistic training, and business must be involved in this training program. We must eliminate the overlap in present government training programs and utilize the expertise of the businessman who can do the job better. What this country needs most today is not a guaranteed income, but a guaranteed opportunity to earn an income. We live in the most affluent society in the history of mankind, and yet children in our midst are permanently retarded by lack of proper food. We have 6 different federal agencies distributing food in this country. We are spending over $27 billion on poverty programs, and yet we have many malnourished Americans. This is a tragedy. We Republicans would coordinate these programs and amply fund them to erase the tragic irony of surplus food and starving Americans. Education is the door to the future. No American should be denied education to the fullest potential of his abilities because of a lack of income. We will emphasize preschool programs to help those who start behind in our society. And we will give tax credits to the forgotten people in this society, the middle-income people who work hard for a living and must pay for a college education. This is the age of the young society. The new majority is composed of Americans who are less than 26 years of age, a majority of Americans today. It is their future over which we agonize. A young society is a society of hope and vitality. New leadership in America can inspire our young and guarantee justice to all our people. Black Americans and white Americans must unite to bring meaning and dignity to our people. The principles that made this nation great are not hitching posts to the past. We Republicans will make these principles stepping stones to the future. Human betterment is our goal, and a realistic course to human betterment is the way to victory, not alone for the Republican Party, but for our nation.
I am proud to present to this convention a man who lends considerable distinction to our party and to the United States Senate. An international lawyer, an author, an expert on Chinese art, a Navy veteran of World War II and Korea, a former National Republican Committeeman. He has served in Congress from Pennsylvania since 1940. He was elected to the U.S. Senate in 1958 and re-elected in 1964. A man whose views command universal respect. From the Keystone State of Pennsylvania, Senator Hugh Scott.
The 1968 Republican platform extends our invitation to all Americans to come to the party which intends to deserve your support in 1968. We invite you to come to the party that measures progress not alone by the pouring out of money, but by the pouring in of effort from men and women of conscience and of principle. We invite you to come to the party that lives by the concept that the end we seek is not that people should work for government, but that government should work for the people. Our platform faces up to human needs, those matters involving law and justice under law, health, housing, the elderly, and the veterans of our many wars. Rising lawlessness is crumbling the foundations of American society. We offer a balanced, responsible, and determined program which combines firmness in dealing with criminals with constructive programs to prevent crimes through a relentless attack on economic and social injustice. We do not traffic in people's fears. Rather, we speak in hard facts and make specific recommendations. The Johnson-Humphrey administration has failed to deal effectively with crime in America. By contrast, we document what effective Republican leadership in Congress and our 26 Republican governors have done to fill the leadership gap in suppressing crime and in deterring the criminal. If we can do it in Congress and in the state houses, we can do it in the White House. And that's the job we are here to do as our party fulfills its duty to our nation. We offer 13 specific recommendations on what new leadership, Republican leadership, can do to commit the full authority of the federal government to assist states, localities, and law enforcement agencies to deal with rising crime in America. On civil disorders, we also have taken a responsible and balanced position. The Republican Party strongly advocates measures to alleviate the frustrations that contribute to riots. We simultaneously support decisive action to quell civil disorder, relying primarily on state and local governments to deal with these conditions. America has adequate and lawful means for achieving even fundamental social change if the people wish it. We will not tolerate violence. In housing, we pledge responsible fiscal and monetary policies to bring down the prohibitively high building costs and interest rates, for inflation is seldom more cruel than when it deprives a family of a decent home and adequate health care. We pay special attention to housing for lower income families and support the Republican home ownership and rent certificate programs. We open the doors to more investment, both of private capital and sweat equity. To help the poor, we must simplify welfare administration and reform the system which now stifles motivation to find gainful employment. We assure daycare centers to help those who want to work, and a unified federal food distribution program so that the poor have a balanced diet. We must attack the critical problem of rising hospital costs, expand health care insurance plans, increase the number of doctors and nurses, establish cost control programs, modernize hospitals, and increase regional planning to avoid duplication of unnecessary facilities. For the mentally ill, programs providing health insurance benefits, better treatment in a community setting, and increased research are supported. For elderly Americans, we would strengthen the Social Security system, provide for automatic cost of living increases, the right to increased outside earnings, and lower the age for universal Social Security coverage. We Republicans mean to assure jobs and assistance for our Vietnam veterans and their families. Our platform deals decently and well with the human needs of this nation. We are specific. We are clear. What we promise, we will do. You will like the determination and the compassion of today's Republicans as we invite you, all of you, to come to our Republican Party.
May we have your attention, ladies and gentlemen? We've just got to keep down the noise. Next, a successful Republican from Kentucky, a former judge, active and vigorous community leader. He was persuaded to run for statewide office after he had successfully managed several other campaigns. Last November, he was elected the first Republican governor in Kentucky in the last 24 years. A tremendous campaigner from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, where the bluegrass grows, a wonderful governor, Louis Nunn.